My girlfriend started speaking with her abusive ex behind my back. I broke up with her, and he ghosted her shortly after, so she started trying to win me back. When I refused, she began stalking me. I met my girlfriend Emily 3 years ago, and before we started dating, she told me of her past relationship. Her ex was verbally and emotionally abusive, and sometimes laid hands on her. She broke up with him after 3 years. While they were together, however, Emily bonded with her ex's child. She practically raised the child, so I supported her staying in contact with the kid, but her ex decided to cut that off. Nothing was heard for 4 months, but then the harassment came. He would blow up her phone with derogatory jokes and videos and tell her how his kid hates her. Fast forward to a few nights ago, we were in bed and she got a notification while in the bathroom. She asked me to check it, so I did, and I saw that it was him. I opened the message, and it turns out they've been chatting for months, as if they're good friends. Even worse, she tried to hide it from me later when he texted again, seeing the notification and quickly scrolling past it. I confronted her, but she said that he's just talking to me about his kid. A few days went by and I decided to sit down with her and address the issue directly. After reading those messages, my mind was spinning with questions. I asked her why she was really texting her ex. What I needed was clarity, but instead, her answer stung. She told me she needed someone to vent to about life, to talk to, and apparently, I wasn't good enough for that role. She said it so nonchalantly, as if it wasn't a big deal, but it made me feel small, like I wasn't the partner she could confide in. It hurt more than I expected. She then showed me all the messages. I'm not sure if she thought showing me everything would make it better, but it only made things worse. She didn't try to delete anything, maybe thinking that full transparency would calm me down, but it didn't. I could see right through her ex's intentions. He wasn't just talking about his kid, as she had claimed earlier. No, it was more than that. It was subtle, but the flirting was there, and it was obvious he was trying to get in her head, trying to pull her away from me, or at the very least, sow seeds of doubt about our relationship. He played the knight in shining armor role, the one who'd never cheat on her, despite the fact that I knew he had cheated on her twice before. It was absurd, but what hurt the most was that she didn't push back. She let it happen. She let him say those things about me and our relationship without defending me. What shocked me even more was that she had told him she thought I had cheated on her in the past. This was news to me. She had never mentioned this accusation to my face, but there it was, written in black and white. Apparently, she had shared with him that she believed I had cheated with my former boss. I used to send memes to my boss and her wife, and I would sometimes help them with home projects on weekends to earn a little extra cash. Nothing more, nothing less. I'd always kept my girlfriend in the loop, sending her pictures of the work I did, receipts for supplies, and even footage from the home security cameras they had to keep an eye on their 3 dogs. I was transparent, and never once had she brought up any suspicion to me. Yet there she was, telling her ex something completely different. In the messages, he said he would have beaten me to a pulp if he was still in town. He went on about how furious he was, even admitting to punching holes in his walls over this fabricated betrayal. It was all so dramatic and cheesy, but what bothered me the most was that she hadn't done anything to clear the air. She didn't tell him that she and I had worked through her concerns, that I had never actually cheated, or that the whole thing was just a misunderstanding. She let him continue thinking I was untrustworthy, letting him fuel his anger and continue with his threats. Whether she took those threats seriously or not, the fact that she hadn't stepped in to defuse the situation felt like a betrayal. I wasn't just upset, I was heartbroken. Here I was, bending over backward to show her that I was trustworthy, trying my best to make her feel secure in our relationship, and yet none of that seemed to matter. No matter how much I did for her, it felt like I wasn't enough. She didn't trust me, not really, and that realization hit me hard. I knew I had to take control of the situation. I pressed her, laying it all out. I told her she had 2 choices. Either she cuts him off completely and we go to therapy to work through this mess, or she can continue to talk to him, and I walk away from the relationship for good. At that moment, I wasn't sure what I even wanted. Part of me knew I should have ended it right then and there. I should have packed up my things and walked out the door, but a part of me was curious. I wanted to see what she would choose, how she would respond when faced with the ultimatum. The silence between us was heavy as she mulled it over. I could see the conflict in her eyes, and it only made things worse. How could this even be a choice for her? How could cutting ties with someone who had hurt her so deeply, and who was now actively trying to sabotage our relationship, even be up for debate? And yet, there she was, hesitating. I wasn't sure what to expect. Maybe deep down, I was hoping she'd realize how toxic the situation was and agree to cut him off for good. Maybe I wanted her to choose me, to choose us. But watching her sit there, torn between her abusive ex and our relationship, I started to realize that that maybe I wasn't the problem. Maybe it wasn't about me not being enough. Maybe it was about her not being ready to let go of something she should have walked away from a long time ago. In the end, her decision would dictate the future of our relationship. But in that moment, I knew that no matter what, things would never be the same again. Even if she chose me, the damage was done, the trust was broken, and I wasn't sure if it could ever be fully repaired. I ended the conversation there and left it, but then she came into me a few hours later. She told me she thought long and hard about it, and that she refuses to cut him off, saying her only chance to talk to his child again is by talking to him. I told her that if a child that isn't even hers and a man who abused her is all she really cares about, then good luck with that. I grabbed my stuff and left. Rude? Yeah, I let my emotions get a hold of me. I called her parents and ended up telling them we've split. They're great people. They told me they're sorry that things turned out the way they did. They've even invited me out for dinner Friday, just me and them, so I can get some of my tools I've loaned them and to talk more about this. I thought about declining their offer to dinner, but her mom is too sweet for her own good, and her dad and I always have a blast having a drink together. So I'm going Friday. I've doubled down on my decision, and knowing them, they probably won't press me to try to make it work. After all this, I'm going to treat myself to a nice bottle of sake I've been saving in my fridge and just relax. Update 1. Emily has tried contacting me non-stop, from calling to messaging me on SM, begging me to talk with her and work things out. I replied only once, saying that I gave her a chance to work this out, to compromise and go to therapy together, only for her to refuse and choose her ex and child over me. Apparently yesterday he cut contact with her, blocking her on everything, and honestly, I saw it coming. But he'll probably do it all over again when she finds a new guy. She's a wreck, and I pity her somewhat, but she's made her bed, and it's time for her to lay in it. I told her that there will be no second chance, that I was finished the moment she made her values clear, and again suggested she get therapy. I wished her the best, and then deleted her off my phone and anything else she was on. I went out to dinner with her parents last night, and it was actually a good time with them. Her parents were kind yet to the point. Her parents told me not to mince words or leave bits out and just tell them exactly what had been going on. I tried to tell them that while I respect them, that I did not want to drag them into our relationship problems and wanted there to be no issues with them and their daughter. Well, her dad told me they had already had a long talk with M and regardless wanted to hear my input. So we talked. I told them about her ex and kid, his threats, him trying to break up our relationship. Well, I guess you can say he did now. Her lying and hiding his messages. I told them I gave the choice and what she chose. I insisted to them that they take her to seek professional help, that if she keeps this up, she's going to tear herself up and any future relationship. I want her to be happy someday, but it just won't be with me. I'm tired of the lies and deceit. I just want to move forward and live my life, and I hope she can do the same. Their response was not exactly what I expected. They apologized to me for her actions, that they were disappointed that things turned out as they had, but supported my decision to walk away from her. I won't lie, I had expected them to ask me to talk to Emily and try to move past it, but there was not even an inkling to that. Her mom came and gave me a hug, but her dad just seemed dejected. I'd never seen this man look this way, and it felt like a punch to the gut. It hurt seeing him like that, knowing there was nothing I could do. We ended up just sitting there in silence for a minute before he decided to order a round of shots. A round turned into 2, and that seemed to help relax everyone as we started chatting about my future plans, their retirement, goals, and hopes. We were out for 3 hours, chatting as if we were just normal people. I had a great time, even while it hurt. We cried a few times. We also laughed and remembered past times when we'd make a fool out of ourselves. When we were about to part ways, her dad gave me a bone-crushing handshake and a hug which her mom ended up joining in. This man has never hugged me, so I was really caught by surprise. They told me to take care of myself, eat healthy, don't sink yourself in alcohol, and just focus on getting through the days. They're going to look at options for therapy for M and recommended that I do the same, which I think I'll do. They handed me a bag with my tools, said they're going to miss me, but wished me the best. I gave them my goodbyes, and we parted ways. I feel like a huge weight has been lifted, both off my chest and my shoulders. I decided I'm taking a break from dating. One day I'll find someone, but that's all in the back of the mind. Update 2. A few months had passed since the split, and life had taken its own course. But then it started. Emily's name would occasionally pop up in random places. A mutual friend mentioning an awkward encounter, or a colleague alluding to a cryptic message they'd received from her. At first, I brushed these off as coincidences, but the frequency and intensity of her actions soon became impossible to ignore. One evening, while relaxing at home, I received a message from a friend who worked at a local security firm. They informed me that Emily had been inquiring about security systems and surveillance equipment, specifically targeting a location not far from from where I lived, my heart sank. I couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister was brewing. I decided to reach out to Emily directly, hoping to clear the air and understand her intentions, but my calls and messages went unanswered. Days turned into weeks, and the signs of her obsession grew more disturbing. I began to receive reports from my neighbors about someone frequently lurking around the building. A few times, I even spotted someone watching from across the street, their presence eerily familiar. My concerns mounted when I learned that Emily had been showing up at places I frequented, always keeping her distance, but never quite hiding her intent. The situation escalated further when I received a call from a local moving company. They had been contacted by Emily, who was now actively searching for a new house to move into. Her focus, it seemed, was on making my life as uncomfortable as possible. She had apparently gotten wind of the fact that I was considering a home purchase and decided to do whatever she could to disrupt my plans. It wasn't long before things reached a breaking point. One night, after coming back from dinner with friends, I found a note on my door. It was a rambling, incoherent message from Emily, expressing her frustration and her twisted view of our relationship. It was filled with accusations and threats, veiled beneath a facade of longing and desperation. The note was unsettling, a stark reminder of how far she had fallen from the person I once knew. I immediately contacted the authorities and explained the situation. They took the matter seriously, and an investigation was launched. Emily's behavior had crossed into harassment, and her persistent attempts to intrude into my life were now a legal concern. I provided them with the evidence I had collected: messages, witness statements, and the disturbing note. The police were thorough and assured me that they would take appropriate action. Despite the legal measures, Emily's behavior didn't cease. It only grew more frantic. She started sending cryptic messages to my family and friends, trying to manipulate them into contacting me on her behalf. The once clear boundary between our lives was now muddled by her relentless pursuit. The turning point came when Emily's actions became so invasive that it prompted a full intervention. The security firm I'd contacted had gathered enough information to present a case against her. She was confronted with the evidence of her stalking and harassment, and it was made clear that she needed to cease all contact immediately or face legal consequences. Faced with the potential of criminal charges and the pressure from her own deteriorating mental state, Emily was forced to make a drastic decision. She chose to move away, abandoning the town where her obsession had begun to unravel her life. Her departure was sudden, and the neighbors who had witnessed her bizarre behavior were relieved to see her go. The moving company that had initially been contacted reported that her new location was far removed from the area, and her name eventually faded from local news and gossip. In the aftermath, I found a renewed sense of peace. The constant fear and anxiety had finally subsided, and I could return to focusing on my own well-being. Though the experience had left a mark, it also reinforced my resolve to protect my personal space and mental health. Emily's journey had become a cautionary tale, a reminder of how fragile trust can be and the lengths to which some people might go when consumed by unresolved issues. As time went on, I began to rebuild my life, step by step. The scars of the past remained, but they became a part of my story, a chapter that ultimately led to greater self-awareness and resilience. I knew that healing was a process, and I approached it with patience and hope for a brighter future.